Welcome back to Fast Politics. Rick Wilson.
Hey, Molly Jong-Fast.
It's another week of Epstein. Jeff
Yes, and
F.
it's all Epstein. It's all Epstein all the time for the rest of all time,
Yes.
because he has lost control of the narrative. He keeps trying to throw boob bait out there for the rubes, and they're not even picking it up. They're not taking it. They don't want it. They're angry with him, and I'm here for it.
So let's talk for a minute about what this looks like. We have Trump is truthing. It's funny because it's like you really do see, like, so much of the media narrative is like Democrats shouldn't get involved in culture war issues. But actually, what it is like you just should ignore all of this. Like everything that Trump is trying to do, all the culture war bullshit, it's just ignore it and talk about stuff. He's saying we're going to switch it to the Washington Redskins. We must have them be called the Washington Redskins. They can no longer be called anything else but the Washington Redskins. So basically, what we're learning here is that everything Trump is doing is bullshit to get the base excited.
That's correct. And if the next Democrat who says anything about the Washington Redskins except to say, no, we should rename it the Washington Epsteins, because that's it. Stay on this thing. Do not let him off the mat. Do not let him recover. Do not let him get a moment of peace in this. Do not let him play his game. And so far, not only is his base not letting him play his game, but Democrats have done a great job at not letting him play his game.
So
We
explain.
should keep pounding him on the Epstein issue. The lawsuit against Rupert Murdoch will blow back on him.
Right.
That's it. 1,000 FBI agents to review Epstein material has created 1,000 new witnesses, 1,000 new sources for stories. And the fact that he did that is an overt, in my mind, signal that he feels like there is incriminating and compromising material inside the Epstein files and the Epstein
Right.
legal materials. And it has caused him to be completely off his autopilot for the last 10 days. I do not want to let up on that for two reasons. One, it's an important issue where they, for years, have blamed every Democrat,
Right.
and claimed
But
that
it
they were
also
all
matters
involved in a
to the
pedophile
base,
ring.
right? It
Yeah,
matters to the base.
that's
Nothing else
exactly right.
matters to them. They don't care about all the stuff that makes the rest of us horrified. But this, for whatever
They wanted
reason, they care about.
Yeah, they spent 10 years, Molly, telling themselves, we're saving the children, and
Right.
Donald Trump will help us save the children from Hillary Clinton and George Soros and John Podesta and whoever. It was all a lie. It was
Right.
all made up, but they bought into it, and it became a central part of their political character, their personality. They couldn't stop themselves from internalizing it because it was a juicy, compelling story. And to many of them, it explained in their heads that the Democrats had this giant blackmail system that Epstein ran for them, and that it was this cohesive worldview, but it was all bullshit.
Right.
And and
Right.
and, and the and a monkey could have figured out it was all bullshit, but they couldn't. And now I think it's twofold right now. One, the dog off the car, and they can't figure out what to do. They just can't figure out what to do, and that it's driving them crazy. And two, the ones who really believe it, because look, Jack Posobiec and Steve Bannon and all these other Alex Jones, they knew it was bullshit, but the base swallowed the bullshit whole, and they believed it
Right.
100%. And now all the scamfluencers and the bullshit artists are being punished by the base, because they're like, wait, you told us this was the most important thing. You told us this was happening. You told us we had to help save the children. And it was part of what created QAnon. It was part of what created a lot of the attacks on Hillary in 2016, part of what created attacks on Joe Biden throughout his administration and this campaign.
I think that's right. And I also wonder if there's something else, right? Like clearly the base is upset and the base feels betrayed. But there's something else happening here, which is this sort of like they're seeing behind the curtain in a way that I think they've never done before. We've never seen this sort of the base see through the cracks. And then also, I just think this sort of it's created a panic. we're also seeing how much MAGA world is influenced by Trump, right? That the media complex is really created by Trump, right? Because we saw Charlie Kirk was
Mhm.
was like release the Epstein files, and then he was like, "Hey guys."
I'm done talking about the Epstein files.
Right. Donald Trump says, "Stop talking about the Epstein files." I think that is very, there has to be a sense in which the base is putting together that they are being really controlled by Trump, that all of this is controlled by Trump
I
too.
think I think that's right, and I think there's also another part of this that I think even the mainstream media has, after 10 years, some people have woken up to, maybe I shouldn't chase the rabbits that he puts out there every single day. Maybe I
Right.
shouldn't chase the bullshit that Caroline Levitt says every single day. Maybe I shouldn't always run with the next thing, the next shiny object he throws in front of me. Maybe I should dig in a little harder on the assertions that he makes and the stories that he tells and the lies that they intuit frequently are lies or distractions. Maybe they've realized you don't have to play the same game over and over again with this guy because he is essentially, you know, his own narrative, his own story has fallen apart in front of them. And I think a lot. And I had a couple mainstream reporters in the very beginning of this, like, well, yeah, they were on video a couple times, but there's no real evidence they were ever like close friends. I was like, except for all the evidence that they were close friends. I think there's one more thing here that's happening with his base. And I think that, like a lot of authoritarians, the grip is so strong for so long that when it starts to loosen, when it starts to get shaky, even they have a moment like, "Oh, damn." And I do think while the Trump controls a lot of the MAGA influencer media,
Right.
he doesn't, as we've
And he
seen now,
controls
control the Wall Street
CBS.
Journal or
Right. He
yeah.
doesn't control Rupert Murdoch, the 94-year-old who created him. He does not control.
Correct. The original Dr. Frankenstein who created the Trump monster, it still
Right.
has the power. And I think we're probably about to witness a very interesting dynamic at Fox. Fox's lawyers are notoriously litigious, notoriously aggressive, notoriously
Right.
dicks.
Right.
But you've once in a blue moon seen Rupert tell even the night side of Fox, okay, this is our message now. I don't know that Rupert at 94 years old doesn't want to go out with a bang.
Yeah.
He has broken governments around this world. He has
Yeah.
broken prime ministers. He has broken kings. He has broken banks. Rupert may want to go out with one final hurrah. Trump's submersion in a scandal of this magnitude is not just great for Rupert personally, had to have revenge on Trump for trying to sue him for $10 billion. It's also great content for the network. It's also
Oh,
great. It's also a great
it's great
storyline
for,
that,
it's a huge rating thing. And it is
yeah,
also
even
worth,
even Trump couldn't resist the deep state. Who will be the next true hero of conservatives? I mean, there's a way I could see Rupert having a very profitable experience from this. And Rupert, he does love money.
I also want to point out that there is now two things. On Tuesday, Vice President J.D. Vance made a trip to Montana
Hmm.
to meet with Rupert and
Lachlan.
Lachlan,
Hmm.
discuss.
If I'm Donald Trump, I worry that the 25th Amendment drumbeat will get louder sooner. Rupert and Lachlan could get along just fine with JD Vance.
Well, a lot of people
If I'm
could.
Trump, I'd be very worried about worried about stories not just appearing on Fox about his Epstein matter, but more stories about his health. That'll be the tag. That'll be the giveaway from Fox. If they're going to really turn the machine on their own creation, they'll start having doctors on, like, what about the president's health? Is he okay? Can he still lead? And they might even couch it to keep their audience around, like, while we love Donald Trump, we worry about his health. It's an
So
interesting moment. I mean, and
So, I
frankly,
mean,
yeah.
Maria Bartirola, I mean, I just want to point out, so far, we have seen no evidence on the opinion shows. Like,
No, none.
certainly the Wall Street Journal is running this story and it has, but the opinion shows are still very much Trump's
They
pitch,
are. But
to
once
put
again,
a finer point on it.
once again,
Yes.
let's remember one thing about all those people. Unlike any other network, those people are employees of Rupert Murdoch who will, if he says, Sean Hannity, I want you to go out on stage and I want you to say that Trump is a jackass and a fool. Sean Hannity may
Right.
resist it, but at some
But he'll
point,
eventually do it.
Rupert's power will exercise itself. He
Right.
has editorial control, unlike the head of any other network
Right.
by far.
Correct.
So, and look, I think again, there's a very dangerous moment for Trump coming up. That is a confluence of Rupert in this fight and what Elon Musk does behind the scenes at Twitter. If he algorithmically decides, because Elon's back up on the Epstein wagon again,
Is
beating Trump
he?
on it. He's been mentioning it all week, last week.
Yeah.
But if Elon decides he wants to elevate Epstein content and mute the MAGA troll armies that keep Trump's message, like keeping the base in rigid order, there are two ways
Right.
that the base gets information. It's Fox and it's Twitter.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
if Elon wanted to play fuck around, even behind the scenes, he could have a really bad impact and amplify any of these things about Epstein. Actually, I saw someone ask that question the other day in a pro MAGA live. Like they were worried, like, is Elon going to make this Epstein stuff bigger? I'm like, yes, Elon, you should.
Right. Right. I mean, and it is worth wondering about. Like Elon is out. So Elon may want to get back in, but so far there's zero evidence that Elon is going to be invited back in.
So far, there is no evidence of that. I think that Trump and the Epstein problem has probably delayed Trump trying to screw Elon over, like SpaceX contracts and Starlink contracts and things like that with the government. But I do believe that Elon still has a weapon in his hand.
Right.
And I think even Trump understands if tomorrow, and look, Elon knows what over at Twitter, they know what all the all the bot armies are. They know who they have boosted on the MAGA influencer side over and over again. You know, why is it the MAGA influencers get 80,000 likes and
Right.
25,000 retweets on posts that say Trump is cool,
Right.
and everyone else's voices are sort of like at a baseline. Elon controls that machine. If he decided to use it to put pressure on Trump, to elevate Epstein, to elevate the crisis of Trump's health, to elevate the fight with Rupert, he's got enormous power. You know, and as I always tell people, power doesn't exist unless you use it.
Right.
But Rupert also enormous power, and Rupert is accustomed to using that power.
Right.
And he is accustomed to presidents calling him sir
Right.
and asking how they can gain his favor. And
Republican presidents, Democratic presidents
yes, correct, correct.
don't have a
Yeah.
chance doing that.
But you know, look, Trump files a $10 billion lawsuit against you. You're going to wake up in the morning and go, huh. You're not going to say, how can I make his presidency better? You're not going to say, how can I make him, how can I get him out of this horrible PR trap that he's put himself in with Jeffrey Epstein? You're going to say, well, I have lawyers, guns, and money, as the old Warren Zevon song says,
Right.
and he's going to deploy at least a couple of those. And and I really think that one of the things Fox has always been great at is amplifying a really important Trump narrative that Trump always wins, that Trump is always the winner, the guy who always beats the libs, always beats the media, always beats the rhinos, always beats the never Trumpers. And right now, Trump is losing, and all of those groups, weirdly, for the first time in history, and probably the last, are pretty much in alignment that the Jeffrey Epstein cover up, because let's remember, this is a government cover up now. It's not just Trump's past, it's the cover up that's happening while we are speaking about this.
Right.
This
Right.
is,
Right.
and look, we talked about this last time. Susie Wiles called Pam Bondi and said something to the effect of, you got to clean this up.
Right.
Um, we also now know that this call came earlier than we thought, and the call came with Bondi ordering the FBI to put 1,000 people on analyzing the Epstein documents and case information specifically to discover any references to Donald Trump. They did not do that to make the case clear to America. They did not do that to help the victims. They did not do that to bring justice. They did it to protect Donald Trump. And 1,000 people looking at those documents, that is now 1,000 subpoenas in a case, either the civil case with Fox or any case in the future about this. It is now 1,000 subpoenas in any congressional case when the Democrats take take the House back over. This has turned into something. It's been a mistake. All cover-ups are a fuck up and a mistake. Every time you
Right.
try to cover up something in government, it fails. 3 people can keep a secret in government if 2 of them are dead. And even then, it's shaky.
I think that's right. I also wonder if when you find yourself in a situation like this, like there's all of this material that went to Pam Bondi, right?
Right?
That supposedly went from the FBI. They've sort of narrated enough to hang themselves, right? They've said,
100%.
and so talk us through that, right? They've said that they have the
Well, remember,
stuff,
she said, well, first off, she said she had the Epstein client list on her
right?
desk. And no matter how much they parse that interview, that's what she was responding to.
Right. That's what she
They
said.
also said, Bongino and Patel said, there are thousands of hours of video material, some of which is child exploitation.
Right.
Um, they also affirmed in that the FBI had seized thousands of hours of video, thousands and thousands of photographs, all kinds of other ancillary evidence from Jeffrey Epstein's homes in Little St. John and
Right.
in New Mexico, or it's Arizona, well, out west, what I think it's New Mexico, and in Manhattan. They took all kinds of material. They have admitted that. The GOJ has said, "Do we have this?" We don't know what that is. We don't have a full we have some limited exposure to what it is. We don't have a full catalog of what it is. And the fact that they also had a vast trove of material from the Florida case that Alex Acosta, Trump's labor secretary, who
Right.
gave Epstein the
This
sweetheart
sweetheart
deal,
deal, right.
which
I mean, there's
Epstein,
just so
yeah,
they're so implicated in this, even if like even if Alex Acosta was just like, "Oh, it's a rich white guy, we don't charge them with crimes." The fact that this administration has been for so long being like, "There's something here, we release the the reality is, and you and I both know this, the government is ineffective in many, many, many ways. And often they're just lazy and sort of fuck up stuff. I mean, the most likely explanation with a lot of this is just laziness and disorganization.
sure,
That said, if you have been telling your base for months and months and months and
years, a
years and
decade,
years and
a
years and years,
decade.
almost a decade, maybe more, that there's a secret birth certificate and that there's child trafficking. If you have been telling them again and again that something is coming, and it turns out that what's coming is you trying to protect your rich friends or you trying to protect your boss,
Yep.
then either answer is infuriating to these people.
And Molly, look, part of this came from the fact that the base was told that all the people in this global pedophile ring, not
Right.
just with Epstein, but with the QAnon Pizzagate, Jack Posobiec Pizzagate stuff, all that stuff, they were told that it was Democrats, Hillary
Right.
Clinton, Bill Clinton, Barack
Right.
Obama, Joe Biden, George Soros, John Podesta, on and on and on and on. They were told that this was sort of the Rosetta Stone to revealing that the Democrats were all pedophiles. They were all child sex traffickers. They were all involved in this horrifying, profoundly sick accusation. And as you find more of these stories coming out about this, it's like when Trump has a party of teenage models at his house, and the only person on the guest list is Jeffrey Epstein. When you see him talk about their beautiful secret,
Right.
I don't see a lot of notes revealed from Hillary Clinton saying, "Hey, what a great party last night, Jeffrey. Those babies were delicious." None of it. You see Trump connections more and more. And look, as I've said over and over, if there were powerful men, whether they are Republican or Democrat, sexually exploiting children, America deserves to know about it, and they
Right.
deserve to be punished.
Right.
And I don't care.
Obviously.
And look,
And it doesn't matter
while I
who the
don't
fuck they
think,
are. If it's
right,
Bill Clinton, if it's
yeah,
Donald Trump, nobody cares. They have to go to jail. This is not
yeah,
okay.
right,
Now, it's striking to me that the base also agrees with that. And they're right. I mean, like, it happens to be that this entire controversy is
mhm,
something where, like, the base often wants to do things which are, in fact, base, right? Deport
yes,
grandmothers, separate children, you
Arrest
know,
students, blah, blah,
arrest
blah.
students for writing op-eds. That stuff
Right.
is actually based. But locking up child sex predators that on both sides is, nobody cares what they
Yeah, I don't I literally
what
yeah,
how they voted, just
right. I mean,
send them to
and look,
jail.
if you give if you and I'm not often one to do this, if you take the MAGA base at their word, that one of their big issues has long been the presence in the world of child sex trafficking. If they find themselves in a position where it seems like that the rich child sex traffickers, as Donald Trump said on the record, well, there are many people in there, maybe it would ruin their reputations, maybe it's fake.
Right.
They don't believe this is fake.
No, they
And
do
and the
not.
DOJ is pretty good at accumulating and processing and understanding evidence. And this evidence so far that has been published in the Wall Street Journal, that has been talked about elsewhere, has not been proven to be fake. As the Florida case demonstrated, his abuse of Epstein's abuse of young girls and young girls and young women. I know there's a distinction between the two folks because there are a lot of people say when you say young girls or young women, they're like, no, no, it was young girls. It was in fact both. It was young women and
Yeah.
young girls
Yeah.
who were horribly exploited by this guy. He is a monster. If you look at a world where Donald Trump seems to be defending both his relationship with Epstein by trying to minimize it and by trying to underplay the evidence against other powerful men in those materials,
Yeah.
it's a perfect recipe for the base to finally, after a decade, have a crisis of conscience about this guy.
Rick
And I think
Wilson.
there really are people who on the MAGA side. I'm gonna give a brief piece of generosity to them. I think there really are people on the MAGA side who believed in their hearts that there was a global child trafficking and sex abuse ring, and they wanted to do something about it. And now they're finding out it was their guy. I understand where they're at. It's hurt. It must hurt. It must hurt a lot.
Rick Wilson, will you come back?
Always, my dear.